This series contains adult language and descriptions of graphic violence. Listener discretion is advised. Okay, I have pressed record. I was pulling cat hair off of my microphone. Or Indiana hair.
One of the two.
What's up?
It's happening, you know?
Hello, happy Tuesday.
Happy Tuesday.
Thank you.
Tuesday?
It's Tuesday.
Oh, shit.
Now do you sound quiet? I can't tell.
I sound pretty good. Maybe
Okay.
a little too... There we go. Bring
No.
it up. Bring it up.
Okay.
Oh, that's perfect.
Okay, great.
Sound check.
So, hello everyone. Today, I already said it's Tuesday, so I was actually just looking to see what notes I took. If I have a sense of place, I don't really. But I am going to do a little bit of an intro because I have some things that I wanted to say on a regular episode instead of a bonus. But I will.
Hey there, Ryan Reynolds here. It's a new year, and you know what that means. No, not the diet. Resolutions. A way for us all to try and do a little bit better than we did last year. And my resolution, unlike big wireless, is to not be a raging and raise the price of wireless on you every chance I get. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 upfront payment required, equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes on unlimited. See mintmobile.com for details.
Make sure to put in the show notes how long we talk in this intro for. So all of you people out there who dislike the chit-chatting, you can just skip right ahead to the actual episode.
There you go.
Yeah. So on that note, I'm going to read this review that we just got the other day that I thought was lovely. It's titled, "The First Reviews Are Just a Bunch of Babies." This is by Hello Goodbye 519. And he or she said, "I understand that y'all want to adjust to the listeners a bit. Honestly, your podcast is your podcast. The bad reviews is actually why I jumped into listening to y'all. Their bad reviews told me that this isn't going to bog down my day and is as lighthearted as one can get when talking about murders." Which is great. And honestly, I feel like I should put that in the description for the show, like the permanent show description, that this is, yes, a true crime podcast, but it's not like other ones, and it's as lighthearted as you can get when you talk about murder.
And I think you should start with y'all.
Yeah, I know.
That's a great thing.
I love y'all.
Where is this person from? Do we know?
It does. Apple Podcast Reviews does not give me their location information.
Doubtful, Southern California.
Yeah, well, but I guess that's true. I was in Atlanta and I said y'all all the time. I guess
Well, it's because everybody's saying y'all.
Yeah, and I do agree that it's easier to type y'all than you guys or you gals.
Plus, it's more of a friendly y'all.
Yeah, it's friendly. I love it.
How y'all doing?
I'm gonna bring it back.
Us all are doing great.
You don't have to say it with an accent. You can just say y'all.
I kind of feel like it.
It requires it.
I mean, I can say y'all.
He or she did say at the end, she said the only thing that they would change is to differentiate the bonus episode names. So like an actual bonus episode versus lookup episodes. So they must have just started listening, and back when we were like doing bonus episodes as lookup lists. You know, the bonus episodes have gone through so many different
changes.
Yeah. Like first they were lookup lists, then they kind of became just chit chat. Then we went back to
one time it was a caterpillar. Now it's a butterfly.
Oh, then it was sense of place. We did sense of place instead of lookup. So they've changed a lot. Now they're, I don't know, whatever we feel like. Oh, that reminds me.
Whoa.
So yesterday I did a bonus.
For all the listeners, a light bulb just went up on above her head. You know, it's all blink.
Yesterday I did a bonus by myself. And because I didn't have too much to just like chit chat about in life, I did that mini crime episode that took place in Wyoming that I told you about. Remember?
Oh yeah,
the bridge one.
That one was crazy. I heard the details.
Yeah.
What?
So I wanted to ask you guys,
y'all
listeners, if like, what did you think? Was that annoying because it was shorter and not as detailed and it didn't take place in the Southwest? Was it annoying because you wanted just a easy breezy bonus, or did you like it?
Remember, it's your podcast. You do what you want.
I know, but I think that this is the perfect lead into what I wanted to talk about at the beginning of this. But I think that it's helpful. I think that there's a balance. I think that it's good to take into consideration what people are saying, because if a lot of people are saying one thing, like those are the people who are listening. That's who we're doing this for. That's the people who are listening, you know?
Yeah, it's true, but you just can't.
I mean, I think we need
check
to
everything off the list. Like,
of course.
I don't like this, I don't like that.
No, we need to say like true to, like, I want to say true to ourselves and like be authentic and do what feels right, which is the perfect lead into. So
do what you feel and feel what you do right.
Sure.
This is a new segment.
No, I did. Oh, by the way, for listeners, Indiana is chowing down on a bone right here next to us. I got a message from somebody, and I wish I had screenshot it so I remembered who sent it. But they said, I love hearing Indiana's 2 cents with everything, you know, because I'm always like, oh, she's whining in the background. Oh, Indiana says it's time to go. Like, she's always involved.
She's a very vocal dog. It must be that like slight bit of husky in her, you know?
Yeah, she's always talking. So now that's the bone. We can't, she's relaxing, so I don't want to take it away from her. She's being good. But
now because I'm working out in the desert like that and I see all the coyotes more often,
mm-hmm.
She's definitely a coyote.
I think you want her to be a coyote.
I want a coyote.
I know you do. That's why I think you keep trying to.
I saw a little pup, but he was like, I'm busy doing stuff.
You can't take a wild coyote.
I mean, if he rolls up to me and he like wants food and like he was fine.
Only if you know for sure that he's been abandoned or she has been abandoned by her pack.
No, that's one of the guys who works there, like runs the place. He's like, you know, some people take like wild animals. They're like, oh, they've been left behind. It's like, mama's just hunting.
Yeah.
They're just sleeping in a little
right.
den.
Exactly. So I did an Instagram live the other day when I was driving home from Phoenix, and one of the people, I think it was Zach, he asked if I listened to any true crime podcasts, and I gave like a very long-winded answer. And not really. Like sometimes I used to, well, not so much though. I'm trying to now though. And he suggested a few that I listened to, and I've been thinking about it since then, and I was like, you know what? I should. I used to not listen to true crime podcasts because I didn't want it to influence what we were doing. Like I wanted to just do Death by Southwest how me and Jenna were doing Death by Southwest, and not like take ideas from other people or influences from other people. But now I feel differently. I feel like that's kind of short-sighted. Like I should look at it like research. Like I really should be listening to lots of different true crime podcasts. I'm not saying consistently, but at least like try one out, then try another one out, and then try another one out to see like what people are doing that maybe I like or don't like, or just to like see what else is out there, you know?
Plus it's cool because you could do like a crossover episode if they're like,
it would be cool to do that. You know? I'm trying to like remember.
This is a while back talking about that, like a crossover, right?
No, I think I recently talked about it with you because I said one of our listeners, I know he lives in California. I don't know why I want to think his name is Ryan, but I can't remember exactly. He suggested that. He suggested that we do like a crossover episode with another podcast, which is great. I don't think we're big enough to do that with many. Like, you want to do that with a podcast that's either the same size as you or, bigger than you, that you can help or gain each other's listeners. And I don't like the podcasts that I do know of that I would love to do that with are far too big, far too many listeners compared to us. They would have no interest in doing that. So I don't know. But that's not, hold on. I want to go back.
Go back. I'm not stopping you.
So
no restraint here.
Thanks. So I I just like picked a random podcast, true crime podcast, like not one that I've never heard of, that wasn't like, super popular. It's actually new because there's only 5 episodes out or 6 episodes out. I don't remember how I found it. I just put on an episode and started listening. And I realized as I was listening that I'm an asshole. I'm like super judgmental.
What do you mean?
Like I was listening to it, and within like the first 2 minutes, I thought to myself, ugh.
I'm going to write an Apple review. And
her
it's
her voice is kind of like, sounds like it's kind of annoying. It sounds kind of childish and annoying. I don't know if I like it. And I was like, no, that's rude. Stick with it. Her voice could grow on me. And then within like the first 5 minutes, she mispronounced she said, instead of storybook, she said Storybrook. And then I think the word was solace, and she said like solace. She mispronounced like 2 or 3 words that were pretty.
Over here.
I know, and I found myself being like, I can't listen to somebody who can't even pronounce these. I'm not going to listen to a true crime story from somebody who can't pronounce these words. And then I was like, what a bitch I am. Do you know how many people have commented?
This is the Murder story of tonight. You know?
Well, like, I mispronounce words all the time, and not only do I mispronounce them, but I'm like, ooh, did I say that wrong? I'm not sure if I did. What do you think? And I call myself out and like make a big deal out of it rather than just like, fine, if I mispronounce it, let's keep moving on like she did.
People are judging you.
I know. Well, I've had people be like, it's annoying when you call out that you just say the word and move on. Who cares? Like, it does annoy people.
If you read articles, like even Vanity Fair or something like that, like online,
yeah,
like,
they
don't give a shit about it anymore.
I know.
We're going to assume that you're going to know what it is.
I hate that. It really bothers me because
yeah, when you like read a Rolling Stone article and you're like, "Are you fucking kidding me?"
That's misspelled or like bad grammar. That's I love editing and I love grammar and punctuation and that's my thing. So we're going down a different road. But I had to like stop myself and realize, wow, how harsh how rude of me to judge this woman who's putting out a podcast on her own about true crime, similar to myself. And I'm judging her already. What a dick I am. Like,
I was thinking the same thing, but you were thinking it, even though I wasn't there. I was like, Jesus.
I was just very like, okay. And then I thought this, if this is annoying me about her, so I think that our listeners, like our true through and through, have listened for a while.
Drink the Kool-Aid people?
Yeah, drink the Kool-Aid people. They like me.
By the way, we have a new sneaker out.
They like me. They like Jenna enough to keep listening to us. I like to think that either A, they're very much similar to us. Like they relate to me or they relate to Jenna. Or there's somebody that likes us that like I would be friends with. I like picture our listeners to be people that are either similar to me or that I would be friends with in life, because why are you going to listen to somebody that you don't like? Right.
Well, it's just like when you talk to me about when I watch a show and I'm like, that's not really accurate. You're, oh, it's a fucking show. I'm like, yeah, but that's not even look close to real,
Yeah, but I am real.
Well, I know that you're real. I mean, I'm aware of that.
So
because if you're not, is that the same black cat?
I'm saying, I'm getting off track here. We're going too far down this rabbit hole. But basically what I'm saying is that I'm listening to this new podcast and I'm judging this woman unfairly because I listened for 10 minutes. I'm already judging her. But then I was like, oh my God, is this what, like, if this stuff is annoying me, then our listeners are feeling that way about me sometimes too.
Oh, sure it's happening, But also too, people are like, it's, if you watch like a show and there's like a new character, you're like,
it's okay.
You're like, I don't really like that character. I don't like their
voice.
But that's
a fake character.
But it doesn't matter though. It's like
I'm still passing judgment.
You end up like liking the character, or the person.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah, it's like
I wasn't understanding where you were
going. I say like a lot. It sucks.
Yeah,
but you don't notice as much because you like care about me and love me.
You just said I like care about you. Did you do that on purpose?
Love, and care about me. It's a bunch of different things.
You do say like a lot.
I know, and it's annoying. But
okay, no, I get what you're saying. That like it can grow on you. People can get past it because they like you. That's not what I was saying.
Can we like stop this conversation and interject a new thing real quick?
I don't know, but let's see what you're gonna say.
It was about crossover. We said crossover, and you know how like vehicles have a crossover. They came out. It's like whatever. 15 years ago, crossover, which is basically a station wagon, but kind of looks like it's like what you drive.
No, I drive an SUV.
It's a fucking station wagon. No, it's a four-door vehicle with a hatchback, and it's not four-wheel drive, and it's not a truck.
I do not drive a hatchback, and my car comes in four-wheel drive.
But your back of your car opens like a hatch, right?
No, it opens like a trunk.
Well, I mean, it has a window involved, so it's a hatchback.
We disagree, but continue.
Anyways, for human GPS, because this guy knows a lot, it's like, what do you think is the first crossover? I know what it is. 100% sure.
Okay, so you're just trying to show off your knowledge about
No,
car
I just want to know
crossovers?
if he knows about this vehicle.
Okay, so this is a question directed directly to
The
our
G-
human GPS.
Yeah, because he has a lot of information. He's like, oh, yeah, I got this
I
shit.
just got some messages from him today, actually. He has a lot of
Right.
knowledge.
He does. And I feel like he might know this. I don't know if I should give some hints.
No, you should not. Let's see what he says first. And yeah, I got some messages from here. He was giving me some feedback about that trail cam guy, you know?
Oh, yeah.
The animals.
little things.
And he did, because I had said before, I don't know, on a bonus episode, I said, are there bears in southern Arizona? I don't know.
Fuck yeah, they are.
Yeah, he's like, bears are plentiful in the southern Arizona mountains. He lives here. He lives in Tucson.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I didn't know that. He was on my Instagram Live the other day, and I'm driving, so he can see where I'm driving, because I'm like, it's real time, you know, I'm on Instagram Live. So
He's all this is pretty dangerous.
So
You're
I'm driving, and
Instagramming.
and they're typing into the bottom, you know, so they can hear my voice. Anyways, sorry guys, Mark, I don't think has ever done an Instagram Live or seen one, so I had to explain it to him.
It is.
Right. So it's basically just like, this is a live video. It's happening right now.
Oh, really?
Yes. And so are you being sarcastic?
What's a video? Like you have like a reel-to-reel in your
Sorry.
car?
Okay. So
How does the film develop?
all
as
right,
it's driving?
I get it. So I'm driving and I'm like, oh, I think I'm like, there's Picacho Peak. I'm like kind of close to Tucson. And literally I'm driving and trying to tell people about like where I am in Arizona coming back from Phoenix.
You got told?
And human GPS is like, okay, coming up is the Veterans Memorial Cemetery. And then you're going to pass this. And I'm like, wow, I'm getting a tour from him while I'm driving in a place that I live.
Well, and
He's very knowledgeable.
Well, in his defense or your defense, you are really bad at directions.
Really bad. Really, really bad.
Like you're the opposite of a compass.
Yes, whatever that might be. Anyways, okay, so human GPS, you can message me on Instagram and let me know if you know.
What do you think the first actual crossover vehicle like?
And I'm assuming you're expecting him to not look this up, and I trust him that he won't.
I don't think it's actually out there. Like,
What do you mean? How is that possible?
I think
Hold the microphone closer to your mouth, please.
it's just a vehicle.
Sorry.
It's kind of rare, but it was out there back in the day, and it was the first station wagon they didn't call a car.
Okay, don't give him any more hints.
That's it. I'm
Okay,
sure I'll
let's see if
figure
he
it
knows.
out.
Sorry if that was rude to tell you to hold the microphone closer, but you do.
It was kind of rude, you know.
I'm very aware of it.
There's a lot of listeners judging around like, Jesus, why did she do that to him? Like,
Yeah.
so we're like,
Remember that?
I'm gonna stop listening.
Remember that mean email I got where she was like, "You're so condescending to Mark."
I love that email. I like wrote back. I was like, I agree with you. Like, this is great. You know.
Okay, and let's see. So wait, I have a few more things. I know that this is, a long intro, but maybe I'll cut it
Well,
off.
people can skip if they want.
People
you know?
can skip.
You can do
Okay.
whatever you want. It's your podcast.
I really wanted to do this because I usually do this on bonus episodes, but I just
Why are
wanted
you doing a handstand right now? This is weird.
stop it.
She's not.
I wanted to just thank our listeners, thank all of our listeners. I've gotten to know a good handful of listeners, and not even just ones that are on Patreon. Obviously, I do get to know the ones on Patreon a little bit more because I put a lot more personal videos and things on Patreon. Like, I don't really hold anything back on Patreon at all. I don't really hold much back on the actual podcast either.
You don't hold much back at all.
But so I of course get to know the Patreon people a little bit more, but I've gotten to know a lot of people just via Instagram and emails, and who cares about me? Like, who gives a shit about what my dog is sick, and I'm trying to lose weight, and my hormones are all I talk about the most personal stuff that why would anybody give a fuck about it? And so it shocks me when people I've gotten so many kind messages about Henry. I've gotten so many people who this woman Steph, she sent me links to affordable vet options and a link to a website where you can raise money to for your pet's veterinary procedures. And this guy Jess, he sent a message today. In response, I posted something about a week ago, and I was like, no bonus, guys. I'm cuddling with Henry. Sorry, I feel bad. And he responded to that on Instagram and said, I think that your listeners would totally understand even if you wanted to take like a month or two off and spend all your time with your dog. And like people have just been there was an outpouring of kindness with Izzy when we had to put her to sleep. Ugh, I still cannot even mention that without almost crying. There was so much kindness. I know we won't talk about it, but like the breakup stuff, so many people were so kind and just kind in general to me, to you, to like in general. And then now with Henry, and I've talked about my struggle with trying to find extra work. And I've gotten, somebody who works at the U of A was like, look for jobs at U of A or at Pima. I had another woman who said, we might be going out of town. Maybe you can dog sit our dogs, because she lives here in Tucson. I'm not going to say her name because I'm paranoid that like somebody will then look her up and be like, oh, she's going out of town.
And then there'll be another story for the podcast.
Oh my gosh.
Come on, that was a joke.
I know. But I'm constantly blown away by the fact that people listen and it doesn't seem like it seems like genuinely care. Like, no, I don't think like anybody like
well,
I'm the
yeah, because you're also like a regular person. You do a different thing, but you're a regular person. It's not like just like when you watch like movie stars or famous people, you're like, oh, like look at this person. Like I really like what they're doing, but then you find out they're an asshole or they're not an asshole. They're really friendly. Like I had my brother's ex-wife's sister. So it's like a whole thing. She worked at Miraval here in Tucson, and which is like Canyon Ranch, Miraval
spa, fancy spa
like
thing.
Oprah
Yeah, no, I know.
Winfrey, like owns half of it or something.
Oh, you're saying that for the listeners.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I was like, oh, celebrities, you meeting me? She's like, yeah, this person's like kind of a dick. But she told us about Jim Carrey was there, and like he was like eating dinner, and like after dinner was done, he was like, the staff, it was like kind of getting late, and they're like, oh, we can't really kick Jim Carrey out,
Right.
But he's like, hey, just hang out with me. And she said,
oh, yeah,
he was like the friendliest, like greatest guy. Like he was like, what's up? Like, let's hang out, let's talk. He was just like a really cool dude.
Yeah.
And so it like makes it,
makes him more relatable and like personable. Yeah.
Knowing that if you ran into him, just like some people are like, an autograph anytime.
Sure.
What's up?
Yeah, but I'm not famous. I'm just nobody. And so that's kind of what blows my mind about like the kindness. Like if you're listening because you want to hear true crime, of course you want to be entertained. You want to hear true crime. Why would anybody give a shit about if I'm looking for work or not, or if I'm, you know what I mean? Like anything going on in my life. And not that I think it's the most important thing in any of our listeners' lives.
They're enjoying the podcast,
But it's just really, I don't know. It just really struck me today that there are so many kind people out there. I generally am like, yeah, people are kind of assholes, but they're really, I don't know. Everybody's been very kind. I'm trying in like a very wordy, long-winded way, trying to say thank you.
I just read a review right now. It said very wordy. Girl, this is not even out yet.
I just think it's really nice, and I've really enjoyed getting to know the people that I have. And if you listen and you've thought about sending an email or contacting us through the website or leaving a voicemail or sending a DM, please do. Like, I really enjoy getting to know, on whatever level I can, getting to know the people who listen. And I really appreciate
they're called the listeners.
Yes, the listeners. I feel like they're friends. They're my
It sounds a little creepy that the listeners could be the strangers, that movie.
Or the watchers.
The watchers.
Yeah, friends. Anyways, I really appreciate it. And so I encourage you to keep reaching out. And I did say to somebody today, I can't remember, but like we are going to do a meetup in October. So anybody who listens and wants to get together for, I don't know, like appetizers and a cocktail or something somewhere, it makes me a little nervous because I'm afraid I'll like disappoint people like in person, that I won't be, that they'll like have an idea. You know what I mean?
Bad appetizers or something?
No, like,
you'll be so friendly and sweet and stuff.
I know that, I've met celebrities and I've been like, ugh, this person is, I was really hoping for better.
You're not a celebrity, you're just a regular person.
I know. But I don't want to disappoint anybody meeting them in person. Anyways, I'm going to do it anyways. I don't know, Jenna's not, she's a little bit wary of doing something like that. So probably not the first time. But if it goes well, then she said she would come the second time. So October, when it's cooled off, if you live in Tucson or around Tucson or whatever, and you want to come, I will give like advance notice, and we'll pick a Friday night or something.
Well, Indiana had an opinion about it.
Maybe we can bring Indiana. That'd be so funny.
Devil dog.
Oh, that'd be so fun. Like picking a place, like an outdoor patio place where dogs
And
can
if
go.
anybody wants to take her, you're free to get her.
Hey.
I'm just kidding.
Okay, I think that was about all I had. I did have...
You don't have a bit more?
I do have one more. That because I really liked what she said. This was an email to the website that I got just like 2 days ago from Shannon. She said, I found this podcast one day just looking for a podcast that covered the Southwest. I'm from New Mexico, but I've been living in Kentucky for 12 years and I've been really missing home. So I wanted to listen to something that helped that feeling. And I have to say, you and your sister remind me so much of me and my sister. I love the sense of place. I've been to so many of the places you talk about, and I can picture a lot of the towns. I just all around love this podcast, the banter, the honesty, all of it. And Margot really makes you feel like a friend while you're listening. And that was
so sweet.
I know that.
Nothing about me.
No. I do get messages about you though. People do like you.
They're all fucking get rid of him immediately. Yeah, he's an asshole.
No, that just that was nice because I've listened to podcasts where I feel like I know the host and they feel like a friend, and that's really nice. Sometimes podcasting is intimate. They're right in your ear most of the time. You know, like most people listen on headphones, and it's an intimate medium to connect with somebody, and so I hope that I feel like a friend. I hope that people feel like they're
Don't worry,
my
babe,
friend.
you're in people's ears.
All right. Well, this was a very long intro, so let's see. Okay, 25 minutes. Holy shit!
What?
The people who hate the banter are going to be mad at the. Oh, Indiana was
what do you gotta
Indiana was like, I don't like
This
it
is
either.
all too long.
Too long. What are you barking at, girl?
It's probably like an Amazon person delivering.
What?
So concerned.
All right. Well, we're going to cut to a commercial break for a moment. I actually don't have any. I do have an ad to read. We got a new sponsor that's trying us out.
Whoa.
Yeah. I'm not going to read the ad right now, though. I have to do it separately. However, we're going to cut to a quick commercial break. And then when we get back, we will
Dive into the story.
For you. And we'll let Indiana get her whining out.
Good luck with that.
Okay. Be right back, guys. Okay. We're back.
With a message from our sponsors.
No, we're back.
From the message with our sponsors.
Yes, we're back from the message. If there really were any, probably not.
I mean, we had to produce the whole commercial. It was crazy. You guys should see the work.
All right. Well, thank you for listening to that long intro. If you did, and if you didn't, then welcome to the story for today, the crime story for today.
Why are we whispering?
I don't know.
It's a quiet
It's
story.
late in the evening. It's a bad idea for me to podcast this late in the evening. It's
not even that late.
It's 6:00. I get tired at like 7. I was up at 5 this morning with Indiana.
I was up at 4.
I know. Nobody can ever one up you on waking up early because of your job. Okay. So let's jump in.
Let's jump into it.
Okay. Our story today
Involves a pool, apparently, because we're jumping into it. I'm just kidding.
Get
Does
all your jokes out.
Does it?
It does not.
God damn it. That would have been funny. I don't
Get
know.
all the jokes out before we jump into the story of someone who was murdered.
Bored at home? Head over to Chumba Casino and join some serious social casino fun. With hundreds of games at your fingertips, no purchase necessary. You can play anytime, anywhere. There's a special welcome bonus waiting for you when you sign up. Play for fun, play for free, and you could even redeem some great prizes. Visit ChumbaCasino.com and get ready to reel in the fun. Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus terms and conditions apply.
Okay.
I'm giving you a serious look. Just kidding. So our story today takes place the week after Labor Day in 1980.
That's coming up, isn't Labor Day?
Yes, it is. What? I know. So the week after Labor Day meant the first week of school. in Colorado, where our story takes
Makes me
place.
want to kill somebody.
Well, what's funny is that that's not the case anymore. Most school now starts well before Labor Day.
Oh, yeah.
You know. Oh, were you saying that because it's a murder story? It makes you want to kill somebody.
Yeah. Wow.
It
You
took
catch on quick.
It took
you
a
know?
minute.
You're fast.
So the first week of school is what was happening, and this was an exciting time for most people, especially people who.
Yeah, in the fucking 80s, things were awesome.
Yeah, everything was exciting. Everything was like a movie montage, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So for the Grimes family, who is the focus of our story, the excitement of a new school year quickly turned to grief, unfortunately. But we're not there yet. So we're going to start with September 4th, 1980. Gwen Grimes, who is the mother of the Grimes family, she never really left the house. She was pretty much home on evenings. It was just her and her two daughters, Deanna and Nanine.
Nanine?
Who
Did
they
you
called
say that
Nini.
right?
Nanine. Yeah, I believe I said it right. But they called her Nini, so that's what I'm going to probably call her.
Where's this at?
Colorado. I'm sorry.
Colorado.
We didn't have a sense of place. It's in a place called Thornton, Colorado. It's a small working class suburb north of Denver. It's very close to Denver. And this is an interesting fact, actually. In 1980, more than half of the population, which I don't have, so don't ask me, but more than half of the population in Thornton, Ohio.
Colorado.
Wow, that was weird. That was like a neat. Ohio just came out of my mouth. I don't know why.
Because of industry. That makes sense.
More than half the people were under the age of 18.
What the fuck?
Isn't that interesting and kind of strange? So Colorado is where it takes
Just
place.
a bunch of old people having children at the right
Yeah,
time. You know?
I guess. All right.
All right, so a bunch of 18-year-olds are running around Thornton.
Thornton, Colorado. So it's September.
Not Ohio for the listeners.
Yeah. It's September 4th, 1980. And Gwen Grimes, she doesn't leave the house very often because she has two daughters. Deanna is 16. Nanine is 15. And they're all really close. It's just the three of them. Dad is not in the picture. So they're all really close. Mom is home all the time, hanging out with her daughters, helping them with their school stuff, hosting friends over at the house. But on this particular night, she actually was going out. She almost never did, but she was going out. She had a date. And Deanna, who was, like I said, 16, she had to go to work. So Nanine, who was 15, she was going to stay home and do her homework. And this is the first time she was ever staying home alone. First time mom is ever leaving her home alone.
At 15?
At 15, yeah. They were close. And it was a safe place. They didn't lock doors. They didn't lock windows. It was a very safe, small suburb.
I mean, everybody's a child there, apparently.
Well, why were you left? Well, you grew up differently, though. You were like...
Well, I'm the youngest of three brothers. So
yeah,
like,
so you were home.
my parents both work, so it's like, all right, that guy's like 8. He can take care of the rest of them.
8?
I don't know if I was that young. but
That's too young. There's no way.
I used to go take off when I was a kid, like,
I
out to
know.
the desert.
I
You
know.
what I mean?
All
My
right.
mom's like, where the fuck have you been?
I know.
My dad's like, why are you wearing your mother?
Yeah. That's
I'm like,
true.
I have a knife. It's fine. They're like, you're 7.
Okay. All right. Back to the Grimes.
Well, this is Tucson, you know. You kept your doors locked and kept a knife on you all the time, you know. Very close to the border.
Okay. All righty. So it's 10 p.m. on September 4th. Deanna has been at work. Nanine has been home doing her homework, and mom has been out with boyfriend on a date.
Not boyfriend, just a date.
No, it's boyfriend. It was boyfriend.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Now we're getting into the story.
So Deanna was leaving work around 10 p.m. She's driving home in a Mustang. She's jamming out to some rock music on the drive. And she pulls into her driveway and sits for a few minutes. She wants to hear a little bit more of the song that she's listening to, a rock song that she likes. She sits for another like 30 seconds to a minute, and then she's like, all right, I better get inside. So she turns off the car, walks up the walkway.
Can I imagine it was Motley Crue? It's on my way home, sweet home.
Sure, because I don't know that song, so let's go with that.
I don't know if it was out in 1980, though.
Well,
Let's assume it was.
Let's assume it was.
Continue.
So she walks up her walkway to her front door, notices the front door is a little bit ajar.
That's always a fucking problem.
I know.
Like, now that you've done so much, I've listened to so much of the podcast and been involved in a lot of it.
Mm-hmm.
If I went to my front door and it was ajar,
I'd immediately turn and walk the other way.
I'd be like,
I'd
why
run
is my
the
door
other way.
ajar?
Yeah.
But
Okay, but Deanna's thinking, very safe place. You know, I don't know. Nanine,
Not a problem.
Nanine like forgot to close the door all the way or something. So she pushes the door open a little bit and realizes the radio's on inside the house and the same song is playing that was just playing in her car.
Oh, she gets to listen to the last
So she's
part of it.
listening to the last part of it, and as she's walking in, and then she starts looking around, and she's like, "This is a mess. It's a mess in here. What did Nene do? I'm gonna kill her." That's what she's thinking in her head. I'm gonna kill her for making such a mess in the family room. And so she's calling out, Nene, I'm home. Where are you?
Why'd you fuck up the place?
Right. And then she's no answer. So she starts walking through the hallway, like the back hallway, to go walk down to Nene's room. And she just feels weird all of a sudden. She's like, something feels off. I mean, the front door was open. The music is playing pretty loud. Most of the
no
lights
one's
are
around.
off. And it's a mess in here. Then she starts smelling something. She's smelling something. She's like, I don't know what this is, but something smells bad. Like, not good. And so she's walking down the hall, and her room is first before you get to Nene's room. And so she stops at her room and pushes open the door and just like kind of does a sweep
Make
of
sure Nene didn't fuck with her shit.
Right. And so she's kind of doing a sweep of the room, and then notice, and the smell hits her. This all happens, you know, the way I'm explaining it is slow, but this all happens in a matter of seconds. Pushes open the door, starts looking around. The smell hits her, and she's like, oh. And then she sees red, and all she can see is a huge red stain, red on her bed, and she barely gets a good look before she turns and runs out of the house screaming. Runs to the neighbor's house screaming, banging on the door. And the neighbor answers, and she says, I'm not sure, but I think somebody's dead in my room. Neighbors are like, okay, call 911, try to calm her down. Deanna called her mom, said, Mom, you have to come home. So Adams County Detective Doug Darr arrives on the crime scene, and he was quoted as saying what he discovered would haunt him for the rest of his life. He walked into the house. He said in the family room, he walked in, things are clearly out of place. Like it's a mess. And then he peers over to the kitchen. There's blood everywhere. Starts walking down the hallway. Deanna didn't notice this because it was pretty dark in the house.
Plus,
blood.
she's not as detective.
Blood. There's blood all over the hallway. Blood all over the walls. Blood on the fridge in the kitchen. Blood on the floor. Blood on the walls leading to the bedroom. Blood spatter everywhere. He passes a bathroom in the hall. Blood everywhere. Blood in the sink. Blood on the faucets.
Jesus.
He takes a few more steps down the hall and goes into Deanna's bedroom. And there is a body lying on a waterbed that had been punctured. So the waterbed had popped, and the body's lying in the bed frame, essentially, that is now filled with water. He said it's filled with about 5 inches of water, and it's just the water's red. The body is covered in blood because the water's covering the body, and it's just dark red water at this point.
It's an 80s thing. If a waterbed.
Yeah.
Have you ever experienced a waterbed?
Yes.
They're the worst thing in the world.
Yes, they make me a little bit sick. Yeah.
They're just awful.
Yeah. So Doug said it was one of the worst crime scenes he's ever seen. The amount of blood was just shocking. So he stepped outside. He was like, I got to go outside. He collected himself for a second. And while he was outside, he sees Deanna, who's also trying to collect herself. All she kept thinking, this is an interview with her later that I saw, that all she kept thinking and what she told the detectives, all I saw was a penetrated waterbed filled with red and a rib cage. And they were like, a rib cage? And so then she explains it. She noticed that the person in the bed, like she didn't know it was her sister at this point. She hadn't connected those dots. It was her sister because in her head she was like, rib cage. Why can all I can picture, she's traumatized. All she can think is a red water and a rib cage. It's because the person was wearing Deanna's Grateful Dead shirt. And in that moment it hit her and she was like, oh my God, that's Nene. That was Nene wearing my shirt in my room, dead. And Deanna said she didn't even realize that it was Nene because Nene hadn't been murdered. She had been obliterated, was the word that Deanna used.
Jesus.
So Gwen Grimes, mom, arrives home, finds her entire house sealed off by police. She's trying to get inside. The police won't let her. She has no idea what's going on at this point. Like, all she knows is that Deanna called her and said, you got to come home. That's it. So she turns to Deanna and says, what happened? And Deanna says, Nene's dead. And her mom immediately is like, you're a liar. That's not true. Like, her mind immediately
Freaks out.
refused to, like, couldn't accept that her youngest daughter. And she just kept saying, like, that's not true. It's not true. Nobody would do that to little Nene. Nanine was known for being very quiet, very soft-spoken. She was so kind, always wanted to help people. She wanted to grow up. When she grew up, she wanted to be a veterinarian. She loved animals. She was always helping stray and wild animals. Her and Deanna were very, very close because they were only a year apart in age. So they were like, their mom actually said they were like, so close, they were like twins. They were best friends.
That's like my niece and nephew because they're only like a year apart.
Yeah.
You know?
So Jim Wilborn, another detective, joins Doug Dar, comes to the house, and they are immediately wanting to start investigating and breaking down this crime scene. So they find outside, they notice blood outside of the house, a trail of blood that goes along the edge of the house and around the side, a trail of blood. And then there's blood on the handle for the hose, the water
Sounds
hose.
like there's blood everywhere.
Blood everywhere. So there's blood on the handle for the outside hose. It looks like the water had been turned on, so somebody had hosed themselves off. They found a few kitchen towels with tons of blood on them, like hand towels in the backyard, leading to a 6-foot wooden fence in the back of the yard. Blood on the fence. So they're following this blood trail. So in their head, they're thinking, whoever the unsub is,
the unsub.
Mm-hmm, whoever the unsub is injured because they're leaking blood out the back of the house. Like, clearly Nene never moved off of that bed. So this blood has to come from her assailant.
They've already hosed themselves off.
They tried to hose themselves off. So the blood is on the fence. So they climb over the fence. Blood, there's a street behind the fence in the backyard. Blood droplets, driplets. And I saw photos of it across the street, on the curb, and up to the back of a business there. Not quite up to the business, but in the area of like a back door of a business.
And then it stops. Vehicle.
So that's as far as the blood trail took them. So that night, while it was still fresh in her head, they wanted to talk to Deanna and just get whatever like anything that she saw right when she got home. And they wanted to figure out a time frame. Like, when did this murder happen? But before they can even question her about any of that, Deanna's like, I know who killed her. I know who did this.
Oh, shit.
It was my mom's boyfriend, John Hastings.
John Hastings? Sounds like a criminal.
Well, they have, at this point, the 15-year-old girl has been, like, obliterated in her home. And so they're going on anything. So.
Yeah, but wasn't mom on a date with bro?
Well, supposedly that's what mom said.
Okay,
we don't,
Okay.
So Wilborn, one of the detectives, takes the tip seriously, rushes across town to go question Hastings, to question this John Hastings.
He hastily, interviewed Hastings.
Deanna described the boyfriend to detectives as someone, he's a guy who likes to drink a bit, and he has a volatile temper.
He likes to pop a cork?
He does. He likes to party and he likes to get angry. And Deanna and Nanine did not like him. They fought with him constantly. They had a toxic relationship with him, is how it was described. So detectives believed that whoever they were looking for had a pretty substantial injury. And due to the amount of blood, they believed that it was on the assailant's arms or hands, because that's where you'll likely bleed a lot, especially if you're trying to move and get away.
Okay.
And so they go talk to John Hastings. He swears that he was with Gwen, the mom, earlier that night. They talk to Gwen. Gwen says, yeah, John works at a fast food place on the other side of town. I picked him up from work, and then we went to his house in South Denver, and we were going to spend a quiet evening together. She said it was the first night that I was ever leaving Nene home by herself.
No injuries on Hastings?
And so then they checked him for injuries. No injuries on John Hastings. And Gwen supported his alibi. So he was pretty quickly eliminated.
Well, yeah.
So they want to collect as many clues as they can at the crime scene, obviously. So they're getting all the information they can. A lot of blood, as I've made pretty clear, everywhere. They did find a fingerprint in the bathroom, and they eventually came to understand that there were 2 different types of blood in the house, 2 different blood types.
The victim and the unsub.
Right. So they quickly begin checking.
The database.
There is no database. It's 1980.
Oh, shit. I guess it didn't start till like the 90s.
It didn't start, for a while. So what do you think they're checking?
Male or female?
Maybe. They're checking hospitals. They're checking local
I thought you
hospitals.
were talking about the blood.
No,
yeah,
to see
looking
if-
for injuries.
Yeah, did anybody come in with like a suspicious injury and needing
I
treatment on
just
their
cut
arm or
myself with a
hand?
kitchen knife. I looked very disheveled, and I washed myself off with the hose.
Exactly. But nope, couldn't find anyone who had come in with a suspicious injury or a hand or arm or upper body even cut in any of the local hospitals in Denver. So they were like, okay, we're getting nowhere with this. So let's try to piece together what happened right before the murder, like what was going on in the Grimes house before the murder. And there was nothing there. Like, I mean, Gwen got home from work about the same time that the girls got home from school that day. They were all hanging out, chatting, laughing. Mom was making some food for the girls. Deanna was going to go to work, and Mom had just made Nene a new dress. Apparently the girls liked how Mom made them like homemade clothes, and they loved it. And then Mom went out for her date. So there was like really nothing
out of the ordinary.
Out of the ordinary, exactly. Thank you. So the next day, the autopsy comes back, and cause of death was multiple stab wounds, 86 to be exact.
Jesus. That's a lot.
A lot. And a lot of them were very, very deep wounds, which is where, like, obviously a lot of the blood came from. And there were a lot of defensive wounds. So it was very obvious that she fought really hard. Like, she fought back.
It's a brutal crime.
Yeah. She also had, because she was found on her back, but she had a lot of stab wounds that started on her back. So they kind of thought that
she was attacked and then like
forced down to the bedroom, because there was no forced entry. Like, nobody, nothing was nobody broke in to the house.
Well, apparently they leave their doors unlocked, so it's like
That's true. They also suspected that there was some type of sexual motive, because the Grateful Dead t-shirt she was wearing had been cut from like the top middle of the neckline, like down the front to like expose her chest. And then weirdly, whoever it was that did this laid a white handkerchief like over her breasts afterwards, which seems odd to me. Maybe they were feeling, what do we know that
remorse.
means? Remorse. Thank you, Criminal Minds. So detectives asked Deanna and Gwen, has anyone suspicious been by the house lately? Like, have you been noticing anybody? Has anybody stood out as paying a little bit too much attention to Nene or anything like that? And Deanna said, actually, we have been getting some strange anonymous like hang up phone calls lately. And they started right around the time, actually, that repairman came to the house. And they were like, okay, what repairman? And she said his name was Brian Shutter. He was a washing machine repairman who'd been by the house, I think, more than once. But the most recent time he had come was 2 days before the murder. He was very friendly. He would talk to Deanna. He would talk to Nene. He would talk to Mom. Like, he was a really nice guy, supposedly. But Deanna did say that he seemed to be chatting Nene up quite a bit. And Nene told Deanna that he even gave her money. She had mentioned him that she really wants to go to this concert, but she couldn't afford tickets. And so he gave her $20 to go to a concert.
That's a fucking red flag, man.
That's weird, right? Your washing machine. I mean, we're not in the 1950s.
With a 15-year-old girl? Like,
right.
What the fuck?
Yeah, weird. So, okay.
Immediately, let's go check out Homeboy.
Yes. So they're immediately like, all right, we got to find Brian. So they find him at the appliance repair shop where he works. And they search his car, which is there. and very quickly find a very substantial knife, like a big knife. And they were thinking, murder weapon.
No shit.
They talked to him and he said, that's just part of my like toolkit.
Oh, I have a giant knife to like
Yeah.
cut open washing machines?
Exactly. Detectives were like, we're not buying it. We're sending this to the crime lab. Yeah.
Maytag guy.
Exactly. So they sent it to the crime lab for analysis, but
Not a match.
no blood on it. Not any. And with that much blood, you can't get a knife that clean. Like it's going to be in a crevice. There's going to be something. There's going to be some type of residue. Yeah. Nothing. So he was
eliminated.
He also had an alibi. So he was eliminated. So again, they're racking their brains because they're like, this unsub, we think that they know Nene. They know, or Deanna, one of them, because there was no forced entry. Now,
stabbed in the back, maybe, hey, why don't you welcome yourself in? All of a sudden there's an attack.
So they're thinking that somebody must have knocked on the door and Nene knew them and like let them in. But, okay, so here's my question though, because you see this in TV shows all the time. Like we've seen it in Criminal Minds a bunch of times where it's like, no forced entry, no forced entry. They must have known them. But also, if somebody knocks on the door, like I don't answer my door, period. But let's say I did. Let's say I didn't watch Criminal Minds and I answered my door to anybody. So somebody knocks on the door, who knows? It could be a neighbor saying, oh, I got your package or whatever. I open the door. Even if I don't know that person, if they have a knife or a gun, I'm going to back up.
Yeah.
And they're going to come into my house. So, no, they don't have to. They're not breaking a lock or breaking a window.
Oh, yeah. It's like, no, because like you open up, oh, now there's a problem. Then you're running.
Right. You know what I mean, though? Like, so no forced entry. It doesn't mean.
I never turn my back to anybody.
Well, it doesn't mean that you know the person. It just means you opened the door. And then either you let them in or they had a weapon and got in. And without, having to break a lock or whatever. Anyways, that's just always my thought when I hear that. But so they thought that Deanna let the person, Nene let the person in because she knew them. And then something went wrong. They weren't totally sure at this point in the investigation. But the stabs in her back were from whoever it was pushing her down the hallway at knife point and like jabbing her in the back, like get to the bedroom.
Okay, so they weren't as deep.
Right. That's what they're thinking. And so they're like, well, let's get into their friends. Unfortunately, they learned that Deanna and Nanine have a lot of friends and a lot of the same friends because they're best friends. And all the friends come over to their house. They have a trampoline in their backyard. So it's kind of like a gathering place. Like Gwen is very friendly, lets all the kids come over and hang out. So it's like,
there's a lot of people.
They can't. It's right. They think that it's someone who's been to the house before, and someone they know. Well, that's a big pool at this point of people. So they start looking at the close friends. They talk to all of them, and just nobody fits. Like they're like, nobody's here. It's none of these people. So then Nene had just started high school that week, her first week at high school. So they're like, all right, well, let's see if she's met any new friends. Any new acquaintances? Maybe did she invite somebody over that night? Maybe was she dating somebody? Did she have an enemy? So they're talking to everybody at the high school. Nothing. Nobody knew anything. Nobody had a problem with her. She wasn't dating anyone. Like there was
just nothing.
There was just nothing. So 6 days now have passed since the murder. Family and friends. It was a big deal in this small town. School was canceled that day. Everyone was at the funeral. And detectives had placed several detectives kind of undercover at the funeral.
Oh, yeah, check it out.
And to take pictures, but not like taking pictures like this. Like they must have had some type of small camera device that people couldn't see because they were doing it covertly. And they took hundreds of pictures apparently because they wanted to look to see if anybody showed up with an injured hand or arm.
Interesting.
Or anybody who looked suspicious, of course. And so they then get all the photos developed, go through them, hundreds of pictures they're going through.
Develop them back in the 80s.
Mm-hmm. Nothing suspicious, no injuries that they could see. A month goes by. At this point, the community is worried. Like,
Yeah, where the fuck is this?
where is
person
this
gonna
murderer
kill?
that like
gonna kill us.
brutally killed somebody? Can't find anybody. Gwen and Deanna finally are able to move back into their house. You know, it had to be cleaned up.
How the fuck you move back in the house like that?
It was really
I'd
really
burn
difficult.
it down, you know?
It was really difficult. Gwen said that she would sit every night with a gun in her hands on the couch, just sitting there waiting, like watching the front door, waiting. They both thought that the killer was going to come back for them. They slept in the same room for a very long time. For Wilburn and Dar, the two detectives, they are obviously beyond frustrated at this point. Every lead that they think they have, it ends up being nothing. Dead end after dead end after dead end. And very quickly, months turn into years.
Is there like an industry in this town that you are aware of? Like
No.
Something that happens there?
No, but that's a really good question.
Yeah, it's like, is it a mining town? Is it this kind of town? That's like a question I'd like to
That's an
know.
important question, actually. I don't know. I will look that up.
Is there a truck stop? Truckers come through? It's a question mark.
That's true. Those are
Put
all
it
good.
on the lookup list.
Those are all really good questions. I have no answers.
I know, but you know the end of the story, which I'll never
I do.
know until I know.
So, as I said, months now turn into years. This is the point in the story where, I'm sorry, but I remember Jenna, this would always drive Jenna nuts when it would be like, and we're going to fast forward 15 years. She'd be like, oh man, really?
Fucking goddamn it, man.
But that's what happens. There's nothing else to go on. There's no more suspects. There's no
how
additional
many
witnesses,
years
no
has it
evidence.
been?
So about
And
about 8 years after the murder, Deanna and Gwen are just still tormented by this. Like, this person has never been caught. It's killing both of them slowly. The two main detectives, Dar and Wilbur, their careers move on. They get promoted, and so they move out of homicide in a different direction, and they hand the case over to Detective Larry Peterson in 1988. And in his mind, he's like, we just need a suspect, because then we can match the blood. Like, we just have to find a viable suspect, and then we just match their blood.
Yeah, because
That's
they
it.
have the blood.
Right. Deanna is, at this point, 8 years, still not doing well. She seemed to kind of get stuck at age 16, and she couldn't move on.
Yeah, that would fuck you up.
Yeah. And in her gut, she said for years, in her gut, she knew that she was going to be next. She just couldn't. She was paralyzed by the fear that this murderer either was coming for her initially, and she wasn't there, and now they're coming back. That's what she thought.
I have some questions I'd like to interject, but I know you hate it when I try to predict the story, so I'll leave it alone. You just gave me the finger up. Don't fucking do it.
So in
I know who it is.
In 1989, Deanna finally decides she can't handle this anymore. She cannot live here anymore. She has to make a change. So she leaves Colorado and moves to Tucson, Arizona.
That's a nice little town.
She changed her last name to Davis, and she did all of this to hide from this unknown person that murdered her sister. Yep. She figures if they
But
can't,
her mom stayed there?
yeah. She figures if they can't catch the person who did this, at the very least, she can make sure that this unsub cannot catch her. Little does she know, the killer is a lot closer than she thought.
Whoa. A Tucson killer?
So now we're going to fast forward yet again to January 2005.
89 to 2005?
Nothing happened in that time. Deanna moved on with her life. Gwen tried to move on with her life. No suspects, no advances in the case whatsoever.
This is long gone.
It's cold. So
Yeah.
it's 24 years at this point. At this, nobody thinks this is ever getting solved now.
No shit.
24 years. I don't care.
The
The
suspect
best,
could be dead.
the best police detectives, they just you can't think about how many people get murdered. You can't keep going back to every case. This was a very haunting, terrible
yeah, but when
case.
you run cold on stuff, you can't find it. And plus,
Right.
what are you going to do 24 fucking years later?
Yep. But Larry Peterson, who took this case over for Dar and Wilbur,
Old LP.
he never let go of it. He took it over, and when he took it over, he knew how much this tormented the detectives who were on it. He was like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to solve this. And he couldn't, and he never let go of it, though. But in 2005, this case is still on his mind. You know, he's periodically going back through cold cases. And he's like, well, there's been a ton of advances in DNA. Why not? Let's try it. Let's see what happens if I take.
Oh, wait a minute.
He's like, let's see what happens if I take some of the blood samples from the case, because they obviously still have all this evidence,
and genetically match
and
them.
submit it into CODIS. Let's just see. We're just going to throw it in there. He's hoping for a miracle. He's like, you never know.
Yeah, because people have been arrested in prison. They started taking DNA back then, you know?
Right.
So
and
now
that,
you have
like
things.
in 1980 when this happened, there was no CODIS. They didn't have that. There was no like database of DNA nationwide. So he's hoping, you know, maybe. A month goes by. Okay, if this is choppy, guys, it's because we had to take a quick break. So we're back. So he submitted blood samples to CODIS. He's hoping a miracle. Maybe he'll get a hit. Who knows? A month goes by. Nothing. Another month. Nothing. And his hope is really, he's like, oh, well, it was worth a shot, but, you know, all right, nothing.
But the thing with CODIS, though, is that there's new people involved in it all the time. And
Sure.
plus there's a huge database, so they have to kind of look through it.
Sure. But, you know,
Yeah.
it's an electronic database. So, like, a month, it can go through all of that in a month, for sure. And no matches. Well, I thought that it could. But 4 months after he sent the sample, he gets a phone call. And the person on the other line says, we got a hit on your blood sample in Arizona.
What? In Tucson, Arizona?
In Tucson, Arizona. Apparently,
You look so serious right now.
that's because I think I put something in the wrong place on here.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I did. So, yes, they got a hit in Arizona. Peterson is ecstatic. He's shocked, but ecstatic. He immediately calls the old detectives, Dar and Wilbur. They are dumbfounded.
We
After
got a hit.
24 years, they have a hit. And they find out that his name is Troy Brownlow. And all the detectives were like, what? This name never came up, never heard this. This wasn't even like a blip on the radar. Like, who is this and how did he slip through the cracks? So they had the DNA evidence because this Troy Brownlow apparently walked out of an Arizona prison in February 2004. So just a year before this. Mm-hmm. He had been in prison in Arizona for burglary charges. And before he left prison, he had to give a DNA sample. That sample was put into the national database. CODIS. When they ran the evidence samples, it linked his DNA. And his blood was the blood that was all over the house, along with Nini's that night. So they're like, okay, well, we have his DNA, but we still need to know more about him, and we need to make sure we can put him there. Like, what, he's in Arizona, this happened in Colorado.
Plus, he just got out of prison.
Right, like, what? So they start digging into him. He's now 41 years old, but back then, he had gone to Thornton High School with the Grimes sisters. He actually lived 2 blocks away from them and rode the same bus to school as them every day.
What?
So they started reaching out to people that they had spoken to back then and people that may have known this Troy.
This bro. Yeah.
What do you know about him? Like, do you remember him in school? They wanted to get a better understanding of him. And his friends, they weren't necessarily his friends now. He had
Just
been in jail. But like people from back then, old high school pals, were floored. They were like, there's no way. He couldn't kill anybody. He was like the class clown. He played sports. He was well liked. But as police dug a little bit deeper, they did find a little bit of a darker side. So they talked to one of his ex-girlfriends, and she said immediately he's an extremely violent person. He had been convicted of theft, aggravated assault in Arizona, aggravated assault in Colorado. He was convicted of shooting his ex-girlfriend's piano after he pulled a gun on her and got so frustrated he didn't shoot her, but he turned and shot up her piano. He had basically been in and out of jail.
I mean, that's a crime of keys, you know?
He had been in and out of jail in southern Arizona and Colorado for years.
Pretty much outside of high school.
Right. So Larry Peterson, the detective, calls Deanna and says, we got a hit. And he says his name is Troy. And Deanna immediately said, Brownlow. And it was like a light went off in her head. It suddenly all came together for her that, you know, this person, over the years, she had obviously wondered and thought and went over this in her head a million times. And she was like, okay, it's got to be somebody I know. It's got to be somebody that I've probably known for years, because her and her sister knew all the same people.
Yeah.
Somebody that had been to the house, somebody. And then she was like, Troy did have a crush on me back in school for a while. Troy was all of these things. He'd been over to the house. He'd hung out with the girls. She knew him since like second grade. And she said, quote, I had expected a monster, like someone with horns. Anyone who can cut up a little girl into 86 pieces has to be a monster. And I had known this boy since the third grade.
Jesus. That's a lot.
This is so creepy. Deanna said that at her 10-year high school reunion, and they showed these pictures. There was pictures. He sat right next to her at the table at their 10-year high school reunion, knowing what he knew he had done. He just sat right, like I saw pictures of him smiling, looking at her, watching her. She's there at the reunion. I mean, that is
fucking creepy.
Crazy. And the weirdness obviously keeps going because now he lives in Tucson.
Oh, following her?
As Deanna lives in Tucson. Now, nobody knows, is this a coincidence? He just ended up in Tucson? Or was Deanna the person he meant to kill all along? And now he's just following her. No, like it's intentional. Like he meant to kill her. She wasn't home. So he killed Nene and he never finished the job. So now he's followed her all these years. And if that's the case,
creepy.
The detectives are like, well, she may have been the intended target. Like she was a popular girl. He had a crush on her. She dated lots of different people. She wasn't interested really in Troy. So maybe he went over there to murder her or to confess his love to her. Either way, she wasn't there. And if that was the case, then she could be in danger now. So they called Tucson police and they're like, you need to find this man. They quickly track him down. He's working at Arizona Swim and Fitness on Prince Road as a trainer. And they see him leave Arizona Swim and Fitness and he's on a break and he's going to a convenience store. So they had a warrant. They arrest him immediately and take him into custody. Larry Peterson heads down to Tucson from Colorado. And when he arrives, the first thing he does when he's in the room with Troy is inspect his hands and arms.
Looking for scars.
And he's looking for an old injury from a scar from 24 years ago. And he immediately notices on Troy's right hand, going here across all of his fingers, a very deep, deep scar. And he said, if you weren't looking for it, you'd probably never notice it because it was a difficult place to see.
Right in the little crease where your hands go.
But he noticed it. And
because he grabbed the knife or something.
And he said, how'd this happen? And Troy said, oh, I don't know. I was attacked while I was in prison in Arizona. And then he said, but it's not what it appears. This is not what it appears to be. And Peterson says, so
what does it appear
to
be?
You know why I'm here to talk to you then? Like, we know I'm here from Colorado to talk to you down here. Yeah. And Troy says, yeah, it's something I should have taken care of 25 years ago. That's all he said. And then he never said another word to the police. That was the last thing he ever said to the police. So he was held at Pima County Jail on a fugitive warrant with $1 million bond before he was extradited to Colorado. He arrived in Colorado on what should have been Nene's 40th birthday. And like I said, he never spoke to the police again, but he did want to tell his story. So he got in touch with a local journalist and tells the journalist an incredibly different story. He said that he was with Nene on the night she was killed, but they were both attacked. That he was there visiting Nene and a man came in and attacked them both. And he managed to get away, but he couldn't save Nene. And the journalist said, well, if that's the case, why didn't you say this 25 years ago? Like, why didn't you, when the cops are questioning people and looking for who did this, why didn't you come forward and say, this is what happened? And he said, yeah, I was a coward. I wish I had called the police or talked to them.
Bullshit.
Or told Deanna what I saw, but I was just too scared. I was just a scared 16-year-old kid. So who knows?
Bullshit, by the way.
At this journalist, this article that comes out now, people are like, "Oh shit, is this the right guy? Like, did they get the wrong guy?" Ultimately, it's going to be up to the jury. So
remember when he said something I should have taken care of 24 years ago?
Exactly. So on June 6th, 2006, the trial begins. It is a packed courthouse because even though this case has been dead for 25 years,
everyone wants to know what's happening.
it was huge back then. And this reinvigorate, it was all over the media in the 80s. And it's brought it back to life. The prosecutors obviously do not buy his story of some unknown attacker that came in.
Yeah, and he wasn't willing to report it because he's so scared.
Exactly.
As a 16-year-old boy.
Right. They were like, that's ridiculous. That's my alarm.
What the hell is that?
I was supposed to do something for work. Sorry. So the prosecutors say the evidence points squarely at Troy. And this is what we believe happened. We think that Nene was home doing her homework. Troy knocked on the door. And there was no need for her to be alarmed or feel, she knew him. She knew who he was.
3rd grade.
So she let him in. And they think that he went over there to talk to Deanna. But when Deanna wasn't there and he realized that Nene was there alone and she let him in the house, he came in. They were probably chit-chatting. They think that he tried to make advances at her.
And she refused.
And she refused and rejected him, at which point he lost his temper, got super mad, and attacked her. And she fought back really hard, but she lost the fight. But the one thing that she did before she lost the fight is she was able to cause that injury to him, which was a huge piece of evidence in that case. That scar, it really did. It really led to him. So on June 13th, many people were questioned throughout the trial. It really, everything was pointing to him. And when Detective Wilbur talked about this, he said, he says he doesn't do it. Well, tell me about his DNA and blood all over the house. What about his fingerprints on the bathroom faucet? Why would if there's an attacker there, he's going in to wash his hands while somebody's attacking Nene? Come on.
Ridiculous.
It's ridiculous. So on June 13th, 2006, the jury retired to deliberate, and it took less than 3 hours for them to find Troy Brownlow guilty of murder, and he was sentenced to 20 years to life.
I hope he's still in there.
And that's it.
Is he still in there?
That's the end. I don't know.
I guess that 20 years. Yeah, he's got a year left, so it's actually.
Yeah, I don't know. I need to find that out. I usually do have that.
That was an interesting story.
Yeah, I think so too. I think that what I actually really wondered was if Deanna is still living in Tucson. If I
wonder.
I've never done it before, so it didn't feel appropriate to be the time to start now, but it'd be interesting to find someone who'd be willing to talk to me, who was involved in one of these stories.
I don't know. It might be a little hard.
But I also am not sure. I'm not a journalist, and so part of me also feels like that needs to be handled so delicately and so specifically.
I think the important part is at least you told this story.
Yeah,
so it's out there.
Yeah,
People know it.
And like I said, I hopefully I did it justice. I will say that Gwen, Nene's mom, said when he was sentenced, it's the best day ever. We finally have justice, and that's all we ever wanted. I mean, I can't imagine how good that would feel. 25 years, you finally know who killed your sister's daughter. So thank goodness for that. And hopefully Deanna and Gwen are doing well today. And hopefully we told this story well. And
you told the story.
I'm
just listening.
Well, thanks for joining me.
I always love it here.
I know you do. And thank you guys for listening. And we're going to wrap up quick so that I can get this published right now for everyone. That's it. Thanks guys for listening. Send your questions, emails, voicemails. Love hearing from you. And we'll be back next week with a new true crime story.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us. Is that what you said? I guess that's true. Thanks for having us in your ear, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Thanks for listening, guys. Have a great rest of your week. Love you all. Bye.
Death by Southwest is hosted by Jenna Schneider and Margot Carmichael.
Executive produced by Margot Carmichael.
Produced by Jenna Schneider.
Audio editing and sound design by Margot Carmichael.
Music by Soundstripe.
And a special thanks to Edward R. Murrow for letting us borrow his famous sign-off phrase, "Good night and good luck."